What is the latest from you when it comes to Anthony Davis and the options for him going forward?
I mean, the options for him are surgery or non-surgery. They're going to seek multiple consultations to try to come up with the plan. But look, even with AD's history, this has just been a hellacious run of woes and setbacks. And obviously, this all but rules out a trade between now and the February 5th trade deadline. I mean, the only option I see for the Mavericks and for, extension talks, I don't think we're going to be hearing about that anytime soon. Like, October 1 is almost 9 months away. The Mavs, more than ever, have to spend these 9 months looking at everything with the adductor. I mean, it seems that the eye has not been an issue all season long, but obviously that was a huge scare in the summertime. But now with this hand injury and the great Jeff Stotts from In Street Clothes, I didn't even realize this. You go into Jeff's database and AD's actually had a history of injuries with the left hand on top of the various other ailments he's had to battle through. So, I mean, to me, when it comes to AD, the focus has to be everyone needs to take a serious step back and look at everything that has gone on since he became a Maverick and try to just get on a better course. I mean, I think if we rewind almost a year, I think even he would say now he came back too soon, and that just started a cycle that has, like, again, even with his injury history, it has been hard to believe. And I know everybody is sick about this. It's a crusher. Like, there's no way to sugarcoat it. Like, you're not going to say the silver lining is, because there is no silver lining. But this does force the team, to me, into the clear direction of, if Anthony Davis wants an extension in Dallas or elsewhere, he has to get back on the court and be able to stay on the court. And so the next 8+ months need to be spent getting everything as right as possible, because obviously trading him just got a heck of a lot more complicated. And I know we're going to get into that, but
yeah.
Look,
so Mark, you and I have been I think you and I have been pretty closely aligned on this, whereas KG has been our arch rival and Ron has kind of stayed out of the fray. You have been saying for a while, and I've kind of echoed that as well, that, if the deal with Atlanta was the deal, then it's kind of a meh deal, and there should be like no rush and just going for a trade that would bring back Ricochet and that first-round pick, which was reported. KG, meanwhile, was like, no, if that's the deal, take the deal. Get out of the AD business. I think there were a lot of fans that felt the way that KG did, who now, in the light of the injury, are saying, like, that's exactly why you should have traded him whenever you had the chance. Yep. Now, did Atlanta ever actually make that offer? Did any team actually make an offer? And I don't mean like a good offer. I mean literally, did the Mavs ever have the option to actually trade him? Did that opportunity ever?
To my knowledge, no. To my knowledge, that nothing ever reached the point of this is an actual bankable offer. I think it's important to note that, and I think I don't want to speak for you, but I hope you agree with me on this. I think the way we've always framed it is we've tried as a group to come up with what would it take for the Mavericks to say yes? What would we want to see on the table from Atlanta or whoever that would make you say yes? And I think hypothetically we talked about, what if it's Ricochet and a first that's not the New Orleans pick? What if it's just Ricochet? But again, based on everything I've heard, the Hawks were not willing to put Ricochet in the deal. So I don't think it ever even got that far. And I think even more importantly, if we're going to laser in on the Hawks, we have to remember the Hawks were not going to trade for AD until they were sure they had a trade for Trae Young. They weren't sure they had a trade for Trae Young until Wednesday, And that deal wasn't actually finalized until Friday after AD sustained the hand injury in Utah. So if we subsequently find out in coming days and weeks that the Mavericks were definitively offered A, B, and C, I think then we look at it in a different light. And then maybe we do have to say, yeah, they should have taken that. But to my knowledge, Atlanta was the most serious, interested suitor. But again, number one for the Hawks was they got to trade Trae Young first. They can't have Trae Young on the books and then take in AD's salary. And then Trae Young says, you know what, I'm opting in. And now our payroll goes through the roof. But the other thing, again, is, and look, it's believed in some circles that Risa Shea is a guy Atlanta would put into the proverbial right trade. But the Hawks have consistently pushed back behind the scenes and said, we would not have traded Risa Shea in an Anthony Davis deal. So, like, to me, it's a hype.
Yes.
We're getting hung up on a hypothetical. And then Toronto, as I think you guys have discussed, now we don't know the picks, the extent to which Toronto would have been willing to go as far as picks offered, but you are going to have to absorb the contracts of Jakob Poeltl and RJ Barrett. And given all the given all the contracts the Mavs have that they seemingly can't move, and the financial issues that they have going forward, was that really palatable? So look, I totally get the frustration, because what the frustration, an Anthony Davis trade, I think there's a perception that an Anthony Davis trade at this deadline would have fixed things for the Mavericks. No, what would have fixed things for the Mavericks would have been not making the Luka trade in the first place, which they obviously can't go back and undo. That's this catalyst that put the Mavs in the situation they're in. Now, again, I will be the first to put my hand up and say I'm wrong if we find out in coming days and weeks that there was a, quote, palatable option for the Mavs to take and do. But like I said, I'm just based on the bits and pieces we've heard, like, I don't know. I don't think that offer was on the table for the Mavs at any point since this season started, and even going back to the offseason. In the offseason, AD had to have this eye procedure. Like, he missed so much time last season after becoming a Maverick. Then the eye issue, and then everything that's happened this season. He got hurt in his 5th game of the season, and we all recite the stat. He hasn't played more than five games in a row as a Maverick. So it's like, how good were the offers going to be? I don't think there was an offer on the table that was going to be so great that the Mavs had to jump on it. And so that's why now they are forced into this position. They've got to look at everything. And can we get Anthony Davis back to the point that he is a 55 to 60 game regular season player and a guy who can contribute in the playoffs? I mean, that's
not here. Not here. He can't do it here. In my humble opinion, he can't do it here.
But KG, what if there is no trade? What if no trade materializes now? Maybe a trade will materialize, but what if it doesn't? Are you just gonna say, well, it's never gonna work out here? No, you have to try to find a way. Because they might not be able to trade him. Maybe they will. Maybe this summer someone's gonna say, you know what? We're gonna take the risk anyway. But you have to be prepared for every eventuality.
Yeah, if they can't find a trade, then they'll have to work out some kind of Joel Embiid type management plan to get him to a point where he's consistently playing enough games to then move him. The long-term future for me when it comes to Anthony Davis being on the Dallas Mavericks is persona non grata. Like, it can't happen. Give him to a point where he can play consistently enough to get some market value up for him, and then you move him because he's getting too expensive and too old at this point. He'll be 33 in March.
That's the other thing. Look, the finances are a mess. We're all in agreement on that. But they're going to have to figure out other ways to rectify that. Can you trade Daniel Gafford for an expiring somewhere to create some financial relief? We don't know what's going to happen in the offseason when pjwashington becomes trade eligible. But in the short term, like, this team, we've been talking about the tank now for weeks. This team has to lose, and And this isn't comforting either. I'm not trying to make it sound like I have some 5-point plan that's going to fix anything, because again, things are not good. We're not going to sugarcoat it.
Respect.
And the Mavs now have to rely on lottery luck, which they've had once in the 45-year history of the franchise. Are they going to have lottery luck again? I don't know. If they do, but again, let's pretend they do. Let's pretend the Mavs get, is top 4 too ambitious, a top 8 pick,
Yikes.
and let's say they get a real player in this draft. Now you've got a young core of Coop, whoever you draft, Max Christie, and you still have to get Lively back on track after his now 2 seasons of injury woe. You've got that core of young players. But I think the likelihood is that AD is going to be on this roster when training camp starts next season.
And I know Mavs fans are not going to want to hear that. I know that.
Hell, I'm not trying to hear that. I'm not trying to hear that.
I'm not mad at you, Mark.
Yeah, I'm not mad at you.
What else can they do though? That's all they can do.
No, I know.
Best case scenario.
That's the
peak.
That is
for
the
Mavs
unfortunate reality of the.
Yeah.
What kind of trade
thing.
offer? What kind of trade offer is going to materialize in the offseason for a player who will have missed?
I mean, I
I'm
don't
not
think
sure
that,
an
I don't
offer will
think there
come.
will. I don't think.
I don't think offers
This is
gonna
where I'm
come.
about to tap out, because that right there, that is the whole basis of the argument of why you had to try to find the best deal that you could to get the hell out of this.
There was
he
no
literally
deal.
just said there wasn't one. So so then what is the point? You're getting mad at a win, like you're fighting a windmill.
I understand that. Like, the whole hypothetical of why the AD business was a bad one is that they couldn't find one, and now you're stuck with him. So
Right,
where I'm going
but go ahead.
I was just saying, where I'm going is the best. If you can find one this summer, you take the first one and you move on.
Well, I'm sure they're going to work tirelessly to do that, but
Who wants that contract?
have you ever been driving down the highway in the middle of nowhere and you notice, I'm getting pretty close to E. The next gas station is 40 miles from now.
Oh yeah, I just floor it. Keep it going.
I mean, you gotta hope you make it there. You gotta hope. You gotta hope a gas station.
Trae Young's contract was only $46 million this season, with only 1 year left on it, and you saw what the Hawks did to get off that.
They
traded
nothing.
him. They traded the face of the franchise and the second most popular player in franchise history after Dominique Wilkins for CJ McCollum's expiring contract and Corey Kispert's manageable contract.
Yikes.
God, dude.
AD next season makes $58+ million. The season after that, he's got a $63 million option. It's going to be harder.
Every time he says it.
And so it's great to look into a camera and
After
say,
that, he makes $62 million.
Mark, stop
Like,
saying the contract number.
it's great to pound
It's hurting our feelings.
It's great to pound the table and look into the camera and say, I will stomach this no longer. But I mean, that's not how it works. So
Respect.
that's why
Mark,
they
do you
now
think
have
a year ago
they have 8. Go ahead.
A year ago today, if the Lakers would have said, we're accepting trade offers from AD for AD.
They could have got something then.
They could have got something then.
You think
He's playing well.
Yeah.
He's playing the best of his career.
Like the first
Yeah.
25 games,
he was
playing at an MVP level.
A year ago, he was having
They
his
sold high.
adductor issues. He was having the adductor issues a year ago at this time, if you
They sold
remember.
high.
Or maybe it was probably a little bit later in January that he was having adductor issues with the Lakers. But he was coming off a season where he played much more, if I remember.
So in 1
it
year,
right.
he's gone from potentially premium trade piece to now.
I mean,
They will be lucky to get expiring contracts for him.
at this point, the Mavs are the dummies that bought on the player having the best moment.
Yeah,
of
this
their
is
career.
we're
No,
living
that's
through
the
a
team that
basketball.
bought high.
This is a crypto rug pull.
No,
Yeah.
literally.
Yeah, completely.
Literally. Because Anthony was playing good for 20 games. He's a little injury. It's not that big of a deal. And then, of course, I'm not saying that's the reason why they traded him. Clearly, they got Luka in the trade.
Ronaldo just hit there on another important aspect of this.
Crypto?
It's not that easy to get. AD's salary is so high. Nobody just has $55 million
Nobody.
of expiring contracts laying around. Like even in the Trae Young situation, the Wizards could put $31 million in expiring on the table, but even then they still had to put
Yep.
Kispert's deal in it. The Hawks can trade Porzingis and Kennard, but you still need a pretty substantial salary to go in that trade. Nobody has $60 million in expirings. Like
Oh my God.
it just
sorry, Bobby.
that's not easy to do.